So, good morning, dear participants of Bukovinian International Medical Congress 2020. We are ready to start the second day of the Congress, and welcome to the second plenary session, the theoretical workshop Study Smarter, Not Harder, Being Better at Medicine, from our partners, AMBUS. So now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Ryan Colasso, emergency medicine physician from India, medical editor at USMLE, IFOM manager at the Berlin headquarters of AMBUS, and also Dr. Tanner Schrank, American physician who studied in Poland, partnership manager at AMBUS. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanner. Nice to meet you. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Ryan. I'm really excited to show you all about AMBOSS. I'm a physician, as our host said. I'm from America and I studied in Poland, so I can kind of relate to some of your experiences studying in Ukraine. Yeah, I'll take you on a tour of AMBOSS and we'll talk about how you can all get access for free, and then some more perks along with that. I'll just introduce Dr. Ryan. Wants to say a couple words.
Hi, everyone. All right, good morning. Thank you for tuning in. All of us are tuning in from our homes. It's quite the unique situation we're all facing in the world right now. I hope you guys see how AMBOSS can help you. In general, what we want to cover today is we want this to be a little interactive. So there may be times when we ask you a question and you can write always in the public chat over there, your answers. And what we'll try to do is we'll try and figure out what it is that kind of prevents you from being a better exam taker, a better medical student, a better clinician, and maybe show you AMBOSS, and maybe you find that the things that kind of hold you back from integrating this vast knowledge of medicine, this huge database of medical concepts that we need to take in, it prevents you from integrating and applying it in your exam or in front of a patient. So we'd like to take a look at that. What we can do though, just to start things off and to make sure that this workshop is as useful for you as possible, let's take a little count. Why don't you guys, so what we'd like to know, what Dr. Tana and I would like to know is how many of you are in the preclinical years and how many of you are in the clinical years. So let's do this. If you are in your preclinical years, so if you're studying anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, then click 1 and put it into the chat. And if you're in your clinical years, click 2 and put it into the chat. We're already getting some numbers in. It looks like we have a lot of clinical students, but I encourage all of you to kind of just let us know so that then what we kind of talk about during the session is as relevant as possible to the majority of the people. Yeah. Awesome. And I see that there are people from all over the world, which is really interesting for us as well. I mean, we do workshops. So the AMBOSS team in general is a team of more than 60 doctors from all over the world. And we do workshops in so many places in the world. And usually what happens is when we go to a country or to a university in a country, it's usually people from there or even at a conference. What's super cool about BIMCO is that there are so many people with different nationalities. So it's always fun. It's always fun to explore those differences and how we approach medicine in different ways. So yeah. All right. Cool. And the BIMCO moderator tells us that most of the people on YouTube are clicking to. So what we'll try and do is we'll try and show you more clinical stuff. We'll discuss more clinically. All right. Now, look, most of us are medical students. All of us are medical students. Some of us were medical students quite an eternity ago, like me. But one thing that is common to all of us is that we all have to deal with this monster called exams, right? That's basically most of our life as people on this journey to becoming doctors. So what I want you guys to do is think back to the last exam you gave, and it can't be too far away. So think back to the last clinical or preclinical, basically medical exam you gave, and I want you to think about the marks you got. Now, I can't see you guys, but I know that most of our faces fell a little bit when I spoke about the marks, right? I know the problem is it does not matter how high you score. You always think that you could have done that little bit better, right? This is true for anyone doing medicine. There is no one in this world who knows all of medicine and can score 100 on all the subjects. And in the same way, there's no one in the world who's always satisfied with the amount that they know, because it's so vast, the amount of knowledge we need to know. So what I want you guys to think about is the last exam you gave, and then think about what was the one reason or one thing that held you back from getting the best marks you could get, right? So let's say for me, if I could change one thing in my prep for my last exam, what I would have changed is that I revised for things which I already knew. I wish I could have studied more in a targeted manner. I could have revised things which were more important to me, which I didn't know much about, and stuff like that. So that way, I want you to all of you to write like one sentence in your in the chat thing of what is it that you would have changed to have scored higher marks in your exam. All right, and we give you 2 to 3 minutes, and we take a look at some of the answers, and we'll go from there. Is that okay? Cool. So it is, according to my clock, it is 10:07. So we start looking at your answers at 10:02. And while you're writing your answers, what we can do is I could play you a song, but probably not. I don't want to irritate all of you and get all your pet dogs barking. But what would be nice is to kind of also tell you a little bit of what we do at Amboss and how it came about. Dr. Tanner is going to cover this in his presentation, but just roughly, the whole idea of Amboss kind of came about when some of our founders, they were also medical students like you, and they were going through med school and giving exams, and they were wondering, why are we facing the same problems in every single exam? Every single exam is the same issues. And the thing is, the way we studied medicine, the way is the same way our seniors studied medicines, our professors studied medicines, their professors studied. It's not changed for a long time. It's always one book for one subject, and you really read it in detail. A lot of times you don't remember most of it. A lot of times you have to cross-reference between books. And these guys were like, look, this is not okay. Like, someone has to do something about it. And so what they did is they took this year off and started really deciding, okay, what it is that were our problems, and let's start creating a study tool which kind of solves those problems. Eventually, it grew into what it is today, where it's a group of 60, 70 doctors from all over the world. Dr. Tanner is from America, who studied in Poland. I am from India. I'm currently in Berlin. There are doctors from South Africa, Ukraine, all over the world, who came together, and we started creating the kind of study tool that we wished we had. We came up with a list of problems that we had studying, and we were like, okay, let's put this in Amboss. Let's put this in Amboss. So right now, what Amboss is basically a reflection of how all these doctors from all over the world wished they had studied medicine. All right. So now we've taken a few answers. Let me take a look at it. Let me read out some. So there is time management for sure. Yes. Someone else said, I wish I had studied more question banks. Absolutely. Dhruvish says procrastination. Oh my, this guy is my brother from another mother. Procrastination is your problem. I want to be more confident in my knowledge. Yes, agreed. Studying more material and questions tailored to the Croc format. So knowing what the Croc format is, I know it is more about, it's different from the way you study. It's more about applying the knowledge. So yes, studying more material which would apply knowledge. I should have studied what I didn't know more. Lucy agrees with me. That's nice. All right. Gamifications of lessons, at least for me, is more effective. Doing practice tests. Understanding concept. All right. So it seems to me that all of these kind of tie into 2-3 things: procrastination, more time to revise important concepts, organized information. Seems to be more like having more time or managing time better. So let's say time is one big problem. The second thing seems to be understanding and consistent revision. Yes, knowledge could help me in future. More pragmatic. Okay, gamifications of lessons. All right. Tailored material. Okay, so confidence and knowledge. All of these seem to be more to do with targeted studying, like knowing what you should be studying when. All right, so that's the second big kind of category that we could put all the feedback into. And the third thing, more time to revise, more effectiveness, more pragmatic. Okay, the third thing seems effectiveness, basically just applying knowledge better, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mention these in our in the shared notes. If you, I don't know if you guys can see the shared notes, but I'm just going to keep it there in case it works out for you people, then you can take a look at the shared notes. So the first thing I'm putting is time management. The other thing I'm putting is better targeting, maybe better targeting, strengths, weaknesses. And then the third thing which I'm putting in is effectiveness in study, or using your time more effective. Efficiency, okay, effectiveness is not really a great word. Efficiency, all right, there we go. So I'm going to put those in. And now I'll hand over the mic to Tanner. And Dr. Tanner will take you through this. So let's keep these in mind. And then let's see what Amboss does. And all of you who have these problems, let's see if you find your solutions within Amboss, or at least it helps you think towards how you could solve these problems for yourself, right? Cool. All right, so let's have a great session. Tanner is going to take over now. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I will answer them by text. Is that okay? Cool. All right, Dr. Tanner, the stage is yours.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Ryan. So I set up this little presentation for us with an outline, what we'll be covering. We'll start with what Amboss is, and then what makes it unique compared to other study resources, how to actually use it. So that's where I'll walk through the platform. And then how can you get it? And everyone who attends here gets a free trial. So that's the agenda. Let's get started. All right. So this might look familiar to some people. This is kind of the traditional way of studying versus studying with Amboss. This touches on a lot of things that Dr. Ryan mentioned. So yeah, your exam is coming up. You need to study for this huge, important exam. And so you open up one of your textbooks, let's say physiology, and you try to study from it. And maybe you have some learning material from your professor as well. You study that. You have some random PDFs, and you're switching back and forth between all of these. In addition to that, you have your notes from class, of course, and then let's say you do all that, and then you need to review the material. So you open up a review book, and then you have flashcards, and then you ask for help for someone, and then you think you know it all, so you do a question bank. And by the end, sometimes you're more confused than you started. I know that's how it was for me when I was in med school, until I found out about Amboss. Then it kind of integrated all of this into one. And on the right there, you can see you set your goal. Let's say it's the IFOAM or the USMLE Step 2, or just a shelf exam at the end of your class. And then you get the material specifically tailored for that. And you can do questions whenever you want. And it analyzes how you're doing and what you need to work on, and how much you have left. And all of that's in one platform, which I find super helpful because you don't have to switch back and forth between books, between your computer, different tabs, different programs, and it's just all in one. So that's what that touches on. And that was the entire idea that Dr. Ryan mentioned with the founders of Amboss. They wanted one comprehensive, all-in-one platform to study medicine. So that's one way to answer the question of what Amboss is. Another is looking at the three main pillars, is what I think of them as. There's the knowledge library, which is basically like a digital textbook with all the medical information you would need. And then a question bank, where we have over 4,000 questions in clinical style. So they have a vignette and then critical thinking question and multiple choice answers. And then after that, we have our analysis tools. So these are more than just pointing out whether you got the question right or wrong. It goes more in depth. It tells you why you got it right or wrong, tells you how hard the questions were, and I'll get into more details when we get into the platform walkthrough. But that's one way to say what Amboss is. It's all three of those things in one. All right. So if anyone has any questions, just feel free to enter them in the chat, and we'll get to those. Otherwise, we'll keep on moving along. So what makes Amboss unique? Well, some people describe it like this. It's not just resources from one group of people who think that they know everything in medicine. It's constantly updated. It's information pulled from, high yield, highly referenced sources, and it's constantly updated. It has integration with videos as well as text. It has multimedia. So you could kind of describe it like this: up-to-date, osmosis, and Wikipedia all put into one. And another way to look at it is how the material is made. So Dr. Ryan knows about this better than me because he was one of our medical editors. But all of our questions and all of our knowledge library content starts with a medical doctor. They sit down and they come up with concept and they write it. And then it goes to another one to cross-check it and make sure that they know what they're talking about. And then they check for typos with a copy editor and they proofread it. And then it goes to another medical doctor. And so it's not just one person in a closet somewhere typing these questions up randomly. We have an entire team dedicated to churning out really highly effective and high quality content for you. Yeah. Another way to look at it is how it's unique is it actually gets the job done. So there was a study done on test takers who took step 1 and then step 2 CK. And they looked at how much they used Amboss and how that changed their scores. So you can see on the left here, those users who did at least one question bank block, so that's 40 questions, they got 12 points higher than the national average. So that kind of speaks for itself. And then they later tested step 2 CK test takers, which is more clinical content. And students who did over half of the question bank questions got 15 points higher than the national average. So the numbers can speak for themselves here. In addition to this, we have resources for all of the STEP exams, and we have study plans for USMLE Step 2 CK, and we're working on more study plans for more exams. We're starting to focus more on not just US-centric material, but we're starting to branch out. So I know that when I was studying medicine in Poland, I had to study for my medical school and then as well as the American content. And that was like studying twice. But now that Amboss is branching out, some of the content is more relevant to different markets. So users in Ukraine might find that the more Amboss gets updated, the more the material will be applicable to your exams. All right, and this is
go ahead for a second. One thing I'd like to say is, because I work on the editorial side, a lot of times, I mean, even since the inception or since the release of Amboss about 3 years back, we have constantly received thousands of messages from users all over the world that they've used it for their exams and they've done well. Some of the exams which really stand out are definitely the I-form. And I can understand why, because in the editorial, what we have tried to do is, although we've kept the curriculum attached to the NBME or along the NBME framework, NBME is the body which holds the I-form exams, on which the CROC is modeled, the USMLE, the Saudi exams. So although our curriculum is based on that, we've tried to keep it as globally relevant as possible when we've created the content. So people have used it for their local exams or just generally to understand medicine better, because it's because of all the tools which help them do it, and they've seen results. So there's enough kind of proof for it. If you look up the Amboss kind of effectiveness anywhere, you will see that it's like finding immense takers all over the world, to the point where today there are like more than 50,000 active Amboss users spread all over. Yeah.
great, thanks. So this gets into one of my favorite aspects of Amboss, and that's you can study online or offline. It says right here all the different devices you can use. We have 2 different apps. There's the question bank and the knowledge library, and both of them you can download for offline use. And I can personally attest that this really, really helps, especially with the time management that everyone mentioned. That's such a problem in studying medicine. So in my last year of med school, I went on these electives, and I went to Mombasa, Athens, Scotland, Malta, Sarajevo. I went to all these different places. And of course, in these places, I didn't have mobile data. And a lot of them, they didn't have Wi-Fi in the hospitals. So I'm stuck in the ER in Kenya, and I don't have any way to study up on some of the diseases that I didn't really learn much about in Poland. So we have cholera patients coming in, and I need to brush up on information. I look at my phone. The only study app that works is Amboss because it's offline. And I just think that that's absolutely necessary for studying medicine. And everyone who's been in a clinic knows that Wi-Fi in there is unreliable. So I think that that's one of the key features. That's one of my favorite. All right. So making Amboss unique comes down to basically the integration that I kind of mentioned, where we have the knowledge library, the question bank, and the analysis tools all in one. So that saves you time, that saves you energy, and you don't need to break your focus on changing materials. And we also integrate aspects from outside of Amboss. So we have osmosis videos built right into the learning cards. We have partnerships with other study resources like our Anki add-on that we just released. So if you're studying flashcards, you can hover over a term, the Amboss phrasionary pops up and gives you the definition. We also in the past have partnered with Picmonic. All these different ways are integrating medical knowledge into Amboss to make it more useful for you. And then high performance. So I mentioned the study with the STEP scores. In addition to that, since Amboss started in Germany, now over 95% of medical students there use Amboss. A lot of them don't even buy textbooks anymore. They just get a student life subscription and then they're set for their entire med school career. And then unique features. So I mentioned a couple of those, but we'll dive more into that in the platform walkthrough. All right. I see some people are asking about the 14-day free access. I'll touch on that right at the end of the webinar, but yeah, don't worry about that. We'll send you a code for that later. All right, so how do I use Amboss? Here we have a sort of a breakdown of the different features. And in red, I've highlighted the most important three. So it's the knowledge library learning cards, the question bank, where you can make custom quizzes on basically any metric you want. You can go by system, by discipline, by symptom. You can also go by difficulty, by questions you haven't seen yet, by ones you needed help with. You can completely customize it. And then the analysis tools, where I'll tell you how you can make the best use of those. And then for the people who are in the clinic already, we have some special features like the attending tip, one of my favorite features. And I mentioned the osmosis videos. We also make our own videos called Chalk Talk, where we break down hard to understand concepts like ethanol metabolism with a cute little animation. And we have an entire selection of those in the library. And then our add-ons like with Anki. So let's get right into it. I will see if this works. So I'm going to share my screen when I log into Amboss. While this loads, I'll answer this question about the difference between German and English Amboss. Dr. Ryan might be answering as well. They're completely different. They're built with different guidelines. The American one is built off of the USMLE, and the German one is built on European guidelines. So for us, they're completely separate. If you want both, you'd have to purchase them separately. Yeah. See if this finishes loading. All right, while it loads, I'll explain a little bit more about the website. So anyone who goes to amboss.com, they can start a 5-day free trial whenever they want. Any new user gets 5 days for free. Full access, you can check out the entire site, both apps. And then for you guys, for attending, you get an extra 15 days. And that will be in a code sent to you by us after the conference. And if you really like Amboss after the 5 days and after the 15 days, then I'll show you how you can get the subscription plan that specifically fits your budget and your needs. But I'm not a salesman, I'm a doctor, so I'm not going to focus on that too much. Let me try this again. All right, seems to be working now. So this is the homepage you'll see when you go to amboss.com. You can see the blue button right there is start trial, or up here, 5-day free trial. If you already have an account, you can log right in. And if you're curious, you can scroll down and see all of our different features in action. So if you click login, then it will bring you to login screen, and then you'll go to the dashboard. So this is what my dashboard looks like. You can tell I need to study more. I'm in the first percentile. This is just for presenting. But here it gives you your standing among people who are studying for your same study goals, and how many questions you've gotten right in percents. And then if you scroll down, you see your question bank sessions and your recent learning cards. So you can pick up right where you left off. On the left here, you'll see this panel, which you can open and close. And it has those three main functions I showed you: the library, the question bank, the analysis, as well as some extra things like our study plans. To start with, let's go through the library. This is where the learning cards and our Talk videos are. So if you're just starting off, you can browse different disciplines or different systems this way. And if you're in the clinic already, then you can just go to survival guide, on-call survival guide, and go by symptom, and that will take you to the information you need as fast as possible. For this, I'm going to pick a specific learning card so I can show you the different features. Let's try pneumonia. You can type it into the search bar, which is on every page. And then it will load the learning card, which you can see here. And right away, it looks like a textbook, right? Lots of text right at the top, some of it underlined. And then you scroll down a little bit and you see one of those osmosis videos I mentioned. You can play it and it will open up in the same tab. You don't even have to change websites. It's all right here. And then you can keep scrolling. You can take notes if you ever need to take notes. So you don't even have to open up a different notebook. And save those for later. And then the button right next to that is feedback. So since we're constantly updating Amboss and we listen to our users, if you see something wrong or if you have a question about something, you can always type it into the feedback. And then our customer support will take a look at that and get back to you right away. All right, so if we keep scrolling, we see lots of text, right? We have our normal breakdown of conditions. We have etiology, pathophys, clinical features, all of this. And let's say we're kind of in a hurry. We have an exam coming up. We need just the important information. We don't need to be experts on this. So we can scroll up and it brings these features into view. And we can just click the high yield button and it will condense some of the information so that we just see the important things. Still looks like a lot. So let's just turn on the highlight tool. And this highlights the information that's necessary for your study goal in yellow. And the darker yellow, the more important. You can see nosocomial pneumonia isn't as important as community-acquired pneumonia for this goal. All right, so let's keep scrolling. Here we can see a table, pathophysiology, and here we have a couple histology slides. So this looks like a lot of pink and red and kind of a mess, right? Kind of hard to understand. So you can click caption and read a little bit about what we think is important here. And if you're still not quite sure where you should be looking, maybe over here on these dark spots, maybe over here in the red, you can click overlay. This is one of our coolest features. It specifically circles or highlights or points out the important features of most of our images right on the image. So you don't have to guess what they're talking about if they say it's on the left side or on the right side or anything like that. You can just click overlay. And for these slides specifically, we have a tool called Smart Zoom. So this is very important because if you try to zoom in on one of those normal histology slides, the resolution won't get better. It'll get blurrier and blurrier. But on Smart Zoom, at every level of magnification, the resolution refreshes, and you can get a very, very detailed look at exactly what you want to see. So you can see that we got very close, and Smart Zoom helps a lot with that. All right. Let's keep going on the pneumonia learning card. Here we have some information, another video. All right. Oh, and here we have an X-ray. These are super good for the overlay tool. So you can see that there's like these bubbles on this side. We have some dark something on this side. If we read the caption, of course, it tells us, okay, we have hypodensities. We have a hyperdense area on the left side. Okay. But if you really want to make sure you understand, just turn on the overlay, and there we go. We have exactly what we should be looking at. All right, we'll keep on going. More X-rays for you. We have images like this, flow charts, and treatment guidelines. So you can follow along every step of the process from diagnosis to treatment. We have all the information on this one learning card. Here we come to a table. So something really cool with tables is you can quiz yourself on them with our table quiz. So once you have all the information learned, you can click table quiz. It blurs the information, and then you have to produce the information. You can click on it and double check if you were right or wrong. You don't have to fold your notebook paper in half and make your own quiz. You can do it right in the app. We'll finish that. All right. So if we keep scrolling, we get to the bottom. And on the bottom, we have our references. And these are very important so you can trust what we're writing here. You can see that we've cross-referenced all this information with first aid, with journal articles, with WebMD even, with Step Up to USMLE. We have all the study sources that we double check, and we have a special cooperation with UpToDate. So we take their information as well. We triple check all of it, put it in one file for you, and you can read up on anything that you want to learn more about down here in the references section. It also tells you when it was last updated, so you can trust that the information is up to date. All right, so let's go back to the top. Let's say we're experts on pneumonia now, and we want to do some practice questions. So we'll click QBank session right at the top. And then we can refine our quiz. Let's say we only want new questions. And we only want to do, let's say, 2 questions. All right, let's start. And wow, we're already in the question bank. We didn't even have to open a different book or a different app or a different program. We're already here. So let's go through this. Let's see, the important things, of course, you can highlight just like in NBME exams or other standardized tests. So let's say his age is important, 65-year-old man, coughing up copious amounts of blood to his sputum. Okay, that's probably important. And let's say his vitals are important. Okay, so I think I have most of the information. And to double check, I can click Key Info. And this is the information that Amboss thinks is important. So you can use this, and over time, maybe your highlights will match our highlights. All right, so let's say we took a look at this vignette and we had some labs that we wanted to check. You can open the lab values right here, just like in any exam. Check those. And let's take a look at these answers. Does anyone have a guess right off the bat? Anyone think they know what's wrong with this man? Most likely diagnosis. Well, just taking a look, maybe we can cross some out. So maybe it's not chronic bronchitis. So we can click this little X and it crosses out that answer for us, so we can narrow down what we think the answers might be. All right, I'm going to take a guess and say emphysema. So it was wrong, and it tells us by turning it red, but it doesn't just say right or wrong. It gives us an explanation of why we might have picked that, why it's not the right answer this time, and what needs to be different so that it might be the right answer. And then there's a picture to show that. So we can just minimize that and pick a new answer. Since we got it wrong, it automatically opened this really unique feature called the attending tip, which I think is really, really reflective of actual clinical learning. So when you're in a hospital or a clinic, you're walking around with an attending and they're asking you questions about patients, and they don't want you to just guess. They don't want to hear a random answer from you. They ask you a question, and if you don't know, maybe they'll nudge you along in the right direction, because they want you to learn, right? They want you to eventually get to the right answer on your own. And so Amboss has tried to replicate that with our attending tip. It gives you a little bit extra information. So the most common cause is, in industrial countries, is cystic fibrosis. Okay. So then we can take another guess. And if we get it right, then it highlights it in green. And on the right here, it shows us how many other test takers guessed that as their first answer. So you can see only 8% guessed the wrong answer like we did. 54% got it right on their first try. On the left here, we can see how hard that question was. So we had 3 hammers. It's a scale of 1 to 5. And so this was right in the middle. All right, and down here you can see it's timing our session. So you can try to do questions faster if you're having trouble with finishing exams on time. And then if you want to come back to this question later, you can always add it to a folder right here. Let's make a new folder right there. Okay, so we have explanations for all of the wrong answers. You can expand any of these. And let's say we read this explanation and we took a look at this picture and we're still not certain we understand. We can open up this bronchiectasis learning card right from the question bank, and it will zoom down to the important section, clinical features, right here, chronic productive cough. So we know, oh, okay, these things highlighted in green is what we needed to know in order to get this question right. Okay? All right. Now we can move on to the next question. And it's same length as the last one, so we'll just take a guess. Didn't get it right. Still not right. All right, we got it right. Yay. So that one was easier. You can see 2 hammers, but it allows us to see a little bit of our analysis tools. Yep, it says we got all of those wrong, and it it will tell us if we got them right with help. So that's like the highlighting tool, the attending tip. It'll tell us how long we took, how long per question, all of this important test taking information. You can scroll down and see how you stack up against other test takers right here. And then one of the coolest parts of the analysis, I think, is it breaks down what learning cards you need to focus on right here in learning recommendations. So we didn't do enough to really get a good analysis of it. It would probably just say we need more pneumonia studying. But we can also go by organ system, and just like in the NBME and the STEP exams, we can go by discipline. Okay, so we just went from the learning cards to the question bank to the analysis, all in the same tab. And if we want to go back to any of those, we can click review or repeat, and we'll do the questions again. Or we can always open up this tab on the left and go into the learning cards right here. Okay, so that's sort of a walkthrough on our features. If you have an exam coming up and you want a structured way to break up your studying, you can always check out some of our study plans. We're constantly trying to improve them. So let's say you have a pediatrics exam coming up. We break it up into 19 blocks, 40 questions each, and you can just do one of these each day, and you should cover all of the material. Okay, cool. So let's hop back into the presentation. And that brings us to how can I get AMBOSS? So I mentioned the free trial. And after that, if you are still interested, then these are our normal prices that we run. You can get anywhere from 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, all the way to student life. So that's really helpful for students just starting med school. Covers up to 7 years. And in addition to all of these, we have 2 different tiers, right? We have AMBOSS Plus and AMBOSS Standard. So Standard is unlimited access to the library. You can learn all the learning cards, but you only get 50 questions a month. And then that 50 resets every month. But with AMBOSS Plus, you get unlimited library access as well as unlimited questions. So you can learn and then you can test yourself as much as you want. And those are the standard prices right there. But if you are interested and a bunch of your friends and classmates are interested, at least like 10, then you can always try to set up a group discount. So with this, we get a group of interested students, usually at the same university, that are going to be interested in buying AMBOSS as a group all at once. You each get individual access, but you each get a discount. So if you are interested in that, we'll insert our email addresses in the shared notes. You can email us or support at any time. Just mention that you sat in on Dr. Tanner and Dr. Ryan's BIMCO webinar, and we'll make sure that you get a discount up and running. All right. So this is a quick look at some of the discounted rates we offer. It all depends on how many students sign up. So anywhere from 25% off up to 40% off. All right. And then some of them are capped. So you can't get more than 25% off of student life. So that's important because some people get confused about that. All right. So I invite you to log in and try out your free trial right now. If you haven't yet, make sure to verify your email address. Sometimes it goes to spam. If you have any problems, just email us or support, which is hello@amboss.com. Yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. We'll send you the trial code in the next few days. Make sure to redeem it right away. Redeem it as soon as possible because it does expire. We're sending these to you specifically for attending, and yeah, if you don't redeem it, then it will go away. All right. I think that's it from my side. We can stick around for any questions.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can put it in. Yeah, and I mean, there are so many features. If Tana had to show them all, it would take ages. So we kind of rush through this, if you and I think the best way, the proof of the pudding lies in you guys really checking it out yourself, which you can do with the trial that you're getting. So yeah, go ahead and take a look at the trial, and maybe that will help you make a better decision. What I wanted to say was, so just quickly going back to the problems that we had said. So in terms of we spoke about the time, so you can clearly see, like with the pop-out definitions, if I was studying something and I wanted to reference it, I could quickly, immediately go to directly to that information without having to search for it. The fact that I can test myself and then through an explanation directly cross-reference it in the book itself if I want to read further saves me so much more time. And yeah, like when I was creating it, it was more from the editorial side, and I didn't realize how awesome it is till they launched it. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had this when I was studying. Like, honestly. Even better targeting. There's something that we kind of did. Tanner showed you the analysis bit. And the cool thing about the analysis is that it doesn't just kind of, so every time you click on anything in Amboss, it remembers it as your strength or weakness. So if you get an answer wrong, what happens is it doesn't just think that, oh, they get this answer wrong. For example, a student, let's say Ryan, does not know diabetes. It doesn't think that way. What the inbuilt AI does is it remembers the exact concept which was tested in that question. For example, say the question was related to what is the side effect of the first line drug of diabetes? So what is metformin's side effect? And if I get it wrong, then it remembers that, oh, Ryan does not know that metformin can cause lactic acidosis, not just that I'm weak at metformin. And the cool thing about that is when I go back to reading OHAs, or in this example, the chapter again, you will see that there are these red lines under it, right? This is basically highlighting exactly what you don't know. So, for example, you were reading just before an exam, you go to a chapter and you open the learning radar, which is the toggle on top, and everything turns red. That means you don't know this chapter. You need to read it well. If everything is black and you've solved questions on this, it means you know the chapter well. Don't waste time on it. Just go to the next thing. It helps you target better. And not just that, what happens is based on this profile of your strengths and weaknesses, the analysis uses that information plus what is most important for exams, for the exam that you tell Amboss you're studying for. It uses both of this and weights it and then gives you a study recommendation list. And what that is basically, if you had just 2 days to study, and if you went top to bottom on that list, you ensure the maximum marks. It ensures maximum impact. And these learning recommendations. In this example, what is cool is that if I'm reading, if I have very limited time, I better read sepsis, infective endocarditis in that order and not sit and waste my time on peripheral nerve injuries. This also is such an amazing way to kind of know what to study. And then, yeah, that's it. I think that's most of what we had to kind of say. If you guys have any questions on this right now, feel free to write it in chat. We have about 4 minutes more left. Otherwise, you can always write to hello@amboss.com. Please remember to mention that you you were part of this webinar, so that we can give you that special benefit of someone who's been to our workshop. Otherwise, usually what happens is you will get the general group discount, which is not as significant as what someone who has taken the time to listen to us will receive. Yeah,
that's right. And I wanted to show one more thing. So when you do get your trial code, it's really easy to apply it. So you can either click on your name up in the corner and go to edit profile, or you can click on the gear down here in the bottom left, go to access and billing information, and then you can click up here on access, and it'll take you to this screen. So this is very important. This is where you can enter that long code that will give you, and then just click activate code right there. Okay, so I always get a lot of questions at my workshops on how do I use this code? Where do I enter? And that's how you do it. All right. Cool. Thank you all for attending. Really happy to be here. If you have any questions, we're always here to answer.
I think that our participants are getting prepared for their presentations, for their reports. Maybe that's the reason there are no questions. So thank you, Dr. Ryan and Dr. Tanner, for such an interesting workshop. I'm sure that our participants were happy to attend it. And thank you also for some free trial accounts for our participants, and as well as some special prizes for our winners. About that, we are going to talk during the closing ceremony. Thank you very much one more time. Thank you to all BIMCO participants who attended the second plenary session. And now I would like to ask all of the participants to enter their personal BIMCO accounts and to find the link for their sections. Thank you one more time. That is the end of theoretical workshop, Study Smarter, Not Harder.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.